This is the 7 levels of Fallout 4 mysteries. Level 1, Curiosity Mysteries. On Level 1, we're exploring a mystery that tickles players' curiosity and leads many of us to keep a closer eye on the Commonwealth's coastline. The Fallout franchise depicts many strange and mutated creatures, ranging from rad roaches to centaurs. But have you ever wondered what abominations would take shape in the oceans of the post-apocalyptic setting? While playing Fallout 4, when walking through Bunker Hill, you can overhear 2 caravan guards having a conversation. One guard tells a story about the grandfather she got her rifle from, saying that he was a brave man who used to earn a living gathering mirelurk eggs by the beach. This was until he went out collecting mirelurk eggs on a foggy day, when he heard something massive in the ocean. Let's take a moment to consider this. Her grandfather must have been an experienced survival expert who would have come across all kinds of monstrosities. For something to scare him, it must have truly been a sight to behold. This sound stunned him. He knew he had to see it to make sense of the situation. That's when her grandfather spotted the outline of what he described as a behemoth massive and bigger than anything you or I will ever see. He called the creature Olpeg, a giant blue ghoul whale, though this could have been the Yangtze 31, a barely functional Chinese submarine now found stuck in the shallow waters just northeast of the 4-lead fish packing plant. Shrouded by dense fog, it could have made the submarine appear larger due to an effect known as atmospheric perspective, with the fog reducing visibility. This causes objects to appear larger and less clear, so the fog could have made the Chinese submarine appear larger and bluer to a wastelander who would have no idea what a submarine was. However, could it be that there is actually a massive ghoul whale somewhere out there in the wasteland? After all, there are numerous locations where you can find the skeletal remains of whales. While walking the coast, we can spot the remains of sea life on debris and on land. This goes from smaller fish to larger mutated dolphins that were eventually labeled as dollfish in Fallout 76. Curious enough, the texture for the dollfish bodies are labeled whale in the Fallout 4 in-game files. We may never know the truth behind the legend of Olpeg, but I, for one, will be keeping an eye on the coast. Level 2, Hidden Easter Eggs. If you think massive ghoul whales would be terrifying, what if I told you that there were giants roaming Far Harbor sometime in the past? You may have come across the story of Olpeg, but this next one is easier to miss, and that's why it's placed at level 2. Super mutants may not be the only large humanoids to have existed in the Fallout universe. If you travel southwest of Arcadia, just west of Old Pond House in Far Harbor, you will come across one of the various trapper outposts dotting the island. Beneath this trapper outpost, you can find the entrance to Pinecrest Caverns. Making your way through the cavern, you will find a skeleton, holding a human spine in one hand and a skull faceplate in the other. Upon further inspection, you will notice that the spine and skull are far smaller than it. That's because the skeleton is giant, much larger than a normal human. It's difficult to identify how old the giant could be, as remains can be preserved at varying rates as the caves are forming and may become exposed through cave forming processes. Sinkholes could also explain how the giant ended up there, though the cave could have been its shelter. It is also common for animals to seek refuge within caves and become trapped, with its carcass becoming part of the cave's wall in as little as several months. Could there be giant-sized humanoids lurking the wasteland, larger than super mutants? Or could this skeleton be all that's left of a prehistoric tribe of giants? Many American colonists believed there to have been a tribe of giants living in the Americas, until they were wiped out by rival tribes. This belief was widespread until 1934, when a curator of anthropology at the Smithsonian Institute, Alois Hrdlicka, rejected the claim. He blamed the misperception on amateur anthropologists being fooled by misinterpretations of the pre-colonial burial sites they studied. But could this be proof that a tribe of giants did indeed exist in the Fallout universe? Seems entirely possible with the skeletal evidence found within the walls of this cave. Giants can be found all throughout Bethesda's Elder Scrolls Skyrim, having sold over 60 million copies. It is one of the most popular video games of all time. So it's not hard to believe that on this level we can find another Easter egg with big implications related to the Elder Scrolls series. Exploring the Brothers Pridwin, you can find at the Biolab terminal called Hybrid Log, a series of terminal entries that read, "Had a bit of an unexpected find today. One of our field scribes brought a small root he found at the mouth of a river. Normally I wouldn't hold high hopes for such a small specimen, but the root is displaying chemical properties I've never seen before. I'm not sure anything will come of it, but it's certainly worth experimenting on." They would go on to refer to the plant as Experiment NRT-001, and the next log follows the experiments conducted on the samples taken. Experiment NRT-001, log A017. My new experimental root is doing surprisingly well. I've managed to graft pieces of it onto some hardier stock, and we've yielded a strong, leafy plant with thick roots. While I am uncertain of future applications for my new hybrid, I did a chemical test, and it seems safe to ingest. On a whim, I boiled the plant in some water and discovered that it makes an oddly good tea. There are are 2 more logs that talk about the restorative properties that its root seems to have when consumed as a tea, making the scribe who discovered it feel reinvigorated and healthier than ever. The scribe would eventually discover that this plant has bioluminescent properties, renaming it glowleaf. Upon further exploration, you can discover where they are cultivating the plant for further study, with plenty of specimens to be seen. Fans of the Elder Scrolls series will know right away what this plant is meant to be, with magic rituals, psychic powers, cult beliefs, and even spells becoming more and more common in the Fallout series. It leaves us with questions when Bethesda chooses to include a rare magical ingredient from Skyrim into the Fallout series and make it canon. This rare magical plant is Nirnroot, and it can be found throughout Tamriel. In the Elder Scrolls series, exploring its magical properties will identify its many fortifying attributes. If that's not enough, you can find samples of glowleaf at a water location reminiscent of where you'd find it in the Elder Scrolls series, by traveling due west of Eden Meadows Cinemas. Curious enough, this item has no addiction effects, and in survival mode, the glowleaf has no food value but will provide the sole survivor with a health buff without needing to be well fed. Though, in an interview in 2017, Pete Hines, Bethesda's now retired marketing vice president and head of PR, said that the inclusion of NRT-001 in Fallout 4 was always intended only as an Easter egg, and does not serve as evidence to indicate that Fallout and the Elder Scrolls were set in the same universe. It's easy to write off this mystery as busted after reading that, but I'll ask you, if it was only ever an Easter egg, then why did they include it in more than one location? Give it a completely canon story that includes multiple terminal entries and special properties in survival mode, with Nirnroots and giants. Is the setting of Fallout going to continue to explore magical topics that will naturally evolve into the Elder Scrolls series? Only time can tell. Level 3. Lore Enigmas. On Level 3, we're left with a mystery that involves a girl and her cat. To many people, their pets are their best friend. But would you know if your pet was recently replaced by a near-perfect spy? Here, you'll find questions that lead you to certain conclusions that you might not have known if events didn't trigger in just the right order. Eventually, you will come across Vault 81. As you enter Vault 81, you'll be met by a seemingly ordinary cat named Ashes, who dashes past you and into the wasteland. You'll be directed to speak to the owner of the cat, a young vault dweller named Aaron, who asks you to retrieve Ashes and bring him back home safely. You'd expect this to be an escort mission, but that's not how it pans out. You'll find Ashes east of the vault towards the Chestnut Hillock Reservoir, calmly sitting on the docks. All you have to do from that point on is tell the cat to return home, and it will immediately. You don't have to guide it at all. The cat seemingly understands the command it was given, and despite being far from home, returns ahead of the sole survivor. When you arrive back at Aaron, she will comment that she's so glad Ashes is back, but he acts like nothing happened. Could the Institute have replaced Ashes with a synth shortly after the cat escaped the confines of Vault 81? Now, this might seem like an odd assumption until you play through the game again, without retrieving Ashes after they escape. That's because when you arrive at the Institute during the main story mission, the nuclear option, an identical cat to Ashes will appear in the Institute that does not appear should the sole survivor tell Ashes to return home to Vault 81. There seems to be a precedent for the Institute to employ animal synths when they cannot replace humans, so it doesn't seem far-fetched for a cat to be a synth. Throughout the game, you can find birds everywhere in the Commonwealth, but did you know that you can find cameras that seem to be from a bird's eye view at the Synth Retention Bureau? Bird eyes can only get you so far. If the Institute needed to spy on a vault that does not accept outsiders regularly, spotting a cat running off would be an ideal opportunity to replace it with a synth cat and monitor the vault from a cat's eye view. After all, the Institute has eyes everywhere. Are you convinced that Ashes is a synth? If this is true, could this terminal be a hint left hidden by the developers that could change everything you know about the sole survivor? Level 4. Hidden Truths. On Level 4, you'll find questions unanswered, and may never be. It's left to speculation, but the mystery is a mystery nonetheless. Soon after the release of Fallout 4 more than a decade ago, Todd Howard stated in an interview that there was a game-changing piece of lore hidden in a terminal that nobody had found yet. For years, both players and modders have hunted high and low to this secret terminal. When interviewed, the now retired Pete Hines stated that nobody had found it yet. There are some players who feel that the secret terminal may have finally been uncovered. Though there have been no official statements that this is the terminal, players have reported finding a terminal in the Institute's synth production area, labeled Robotics Terminal 2C. On an entry titled Unique Project, you can find a message that reads, "In select Gen 3 units, the synthetic brain is indeed capable of accepting specific enhancements to the visual cortex, basal ganglia, and right parietal cortex. The result is substantially improved combat effectiveness due to 2 factors. 1. An increased understanding of weapon accuracy, to the extent that the combatant can actually visualize the percentage of effectively hitting targets targets or smaller areas on those targets. 2. An altered sense of perception that mimics the effect of slowing or even stopping time. Recommend we commence surgery and field trials on appropriate operatives in the near future, leading to many players to believe that the sole survivor being a synth due to the entry's description being so similar to VATS. But could this be the same changing hidden terminal Pete Hines and Todd Howard both felt the need to comment on? This seems to be backed by Dima, the leader of the synth colony of Arcadia, and one of the 2 early prototype synths who appears in the Far Harbor during the DLC's main questline, Where You Belong. After old Longfellow guides the sole survivor to Arcadia to search for Kasumi Nakano, the runaway daughter of Wastelanders Kenji and Rei Nakano. Kasumi believes that she is a synth, and after contacting Dima by accident while restoring a radio, players are greeted at Arcadia by Dima, who asks the sole survivor, "One more question, if you'll indulge me. You're here for Kasumi, but I suspect there could be another reason you came to us. Tell me, are you a synth?" If the player chooses to ask, "How would I know?" Dima responds, "I'm afraid if you're looking for some biological test we can do, there isn't any. None that aren't fatal." So, with that, players are left to decide for themselves, rather the sole survivor is a synth, and if this is indeed the secret terminal. What do you think? Lucky for us, the scientists of the Institute rarely venture into the wasteland, but could there be a more nomadic group out there that we should watch out for in future games? Level 5. Inexplicable hidden locations. Have you ever passed through a location that you find oddly familiar, but can't pinpoint why? On Level 5, we're bringing you a location with real-world references that might be hiding a hint that connects locations in 2 Fallout games, taking place 200 years apart. Traveling just south of Walden Pond, right off the highway, you will find an elaborate recreation of the famous Stonehenge historical site in England. It's completely made up of stacked vehicles. An interesting site to visit if you're in the area. But who made it? There are no notes nor terminals found at the location. Nearby, you will find a super mutant behemoth. While it seems natural to believe that the behemoth constructed Carhenge, it's hard to imagine that a super mutant that far gone would be able to focus on stacking that many vehicles neatly without knocking the rest over. If the behemoth didn't construct Carhenge, who did, and where did they go? And this isn't the only Carhenge that can be found. There is another in Fallout 76 just northwest of Bailey Family Cabin, except this one has a leather throne in the middle of it, which seems to have been the seat of power for a leader of some kind. Beware though, as the site seems to attract creatures to it, as it is an assault-type random encounter location. This could just be another reference to Stonehenge, until you realize that there was once more than one in Fallout 76. Before the Wastelanders update, there used to be 2 Carhenges in Fallout 76. When the Cult of the Mothman returned from West Virginia, took over the location, and constructed the Sacrament location dedicated to the Mothmen. In Christian theology, a sacrament is a Christian rite that's recognized as important and significant. They consider the sacraments to be a channel for God's grace. So, could Carhenge have been constructed to channel power of some divine nature, which attracted the Mothman cultists long after the original constructors left? The real-world Stonehenge is believed by historians to have been a significant location that ancient peoples traveled to conduct rituals and gatherings. After the Skyline Valley update, the sacrament was once more renamed to the Crossroad. There are no other apparent changes to the location itself, so why would the devs change the name of a location for a second time if it does not reflect a change in the story? I find it hard to believe that the Fallout series would focus so much on this one location without it having a deeper meaning behind it. With this, we return to real-world lore to examine why the location may have undergone this final name change. In the medieval era of Great Britain, crossroads were commonly used as a place of criminal punishment and execution. This seems to hint that after the Mothman cultists reconstructed the location, the deconstruction of its Carhenge would sever the connection to the divine powers that its constructors may have sought to attain. You can find the crossroad just northeast of the Palace of the Winding Path, and southwest of the converted munitions factory. It's a marked location, and is not too far west from its counterpart in Fallout 76. It wouldn't make much sense for developers to cover up a location without a reason. The crossroad is an area tied to multiple quest lines in Fallout 76, so all these changes are part of the overarching story of Appalachia. Considering that there were once 2 in Appalachia and 1 in Boston, could this mean that there is a group of traveling nomads that are constructing Carhenges just like the Druids of England, who constructed the real-world Stonehenge and other such structures? And if they are nomadic, are they trying to channel something, and when will they return? Like nomads, mercenaries travel from place to place, but this is not for cultural reasons. They travel where the work is, so it makes you wonder why there are so many hostile mercenaries in Fallout 4. Level 6. Dark Unsolved Mysteries. For Level 6, we're bringing you a mystery that might have an answer found in other Fallout games, something that, if true, could change how players view a faction entirely. In the ruins of Boston, you will come across a well-armed mercenary group known as the Gunners. They cannot be reasoned with and are known to wipe out entire settlements and leave leave no survivors. They seem to not be working with any of the known factions of the Wasteland, as they are hostile NPCs and will attack anything they detect. They can even be encountered attempting to fly a vertibird after killing its crew of 2 members of the Brotherhood of Steel. They are responsible for reducing the Minutemen to what they are when the sole survivor first encounters Preston Garvey, having massacred the Minutemen when they came to the aid of the town of Quincy. But who hired them to show up and lay siege to the Boston Wasteland? They are mercenaries after all. They go where the money is, and they're certainly not for hire by many in Boston. To this day, there are no answers in the lore for who hired them, leading many fans to believe that their mysterious benefactor could be none other than the Enclave. In Fallout 3, you can find another mercenary group known as the Talon Company. Attacking the Capitol building, they are then supported by the Enclave, who arrive on a vertibird. So, it would make sense that the Enclave hired the Talon Company to act as their strike force before descending into the Wasteland in full force, as the Talon Company is hostile to everyone else. The leadership of the Gunners and the Talon Company hold the rank of Commander. The Gunners are led by Commander Kyler, Captain Wes, and Captain Bridget, though in the Nuka World DLC for Fallout 4, it is revealed during the main story mission All Aboard. On a note you can loot from Commander Kyler's. The note reveals that she was dispatched by a colonel named Cypress. As for leadership of the Talon Company, there seems to just be Commander Jabsco. If the Talon Company are indeed employed by the Enclave, that would mean that they would be receiving orders from none other than Colonel Augustus Autumn. Could Colonel Cypress be another Enclave leader who attained the rank of colonel after the fall of Autumn, and now commands the Enclave and all of its mercenary groups towards a still unknown goal? In the United States, Commander is a military rank, O5, but it is used as a rank or title in non-military organizations, particularly in law enforcement. With the Enclave seeing themselves as superior to everyone else, could this be why the mercenaries use the leadership rank of Commander, as the Enclave would not view them on the same level as their forces? Considering that both groups are mercenaries, both use a military-style ranking system, both are known to be ruthless, both use pre-war military uniforms and armor, and both have a mysterious third party that hired them for unknown reasons. With one seemingly being affiliated with the Enclave, wouldn't it make sense for the Enclave to have hired another mercenary group to destabilize the Commonwealth before descending from the shadows themselves? This might seem far-fetched until you visit the Creation Club. Released for free on April 25th, 2024, alongside the next-gen update, was the Enclave Remnants Pack, introducing the Echoes of the Past storyline and the Enclave to the Wasteland. Now we know that the Enclave was at work in the East all along. To what extent, we may never know. With this, who do you think hired the Gunners to weaken the Commonwealth? Level 7, Doomsday Secrets. This last mystery would make even a commander of the Gunners keep a guard watching the skies at night. That's why it deserves the 7th and deepest layer of mysteries. For the final level, 7, we're bringing you a deep space horror that might be planning for their final invasion of Earth. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what's out there, waiting for someone to discover amongst the stars? What if a malevolent threat is casting its gaze at our solar system, wondering the same? While exploring the Commonwealth, you will come across Relay Tower 1DL109, and if you choose to turn it on, you will come across the garbled radio beacon. Following that beacon to its source, you will eventually be met with a strange noise from the sky. If you can catch it quick enough, you will spot a UFO with a trail of smoke crashing nearby. If you choose to follow the trail, you will come across its crash site. Easy, you miss. Amongst the burning trees and crater left in the wake of the crash, you can spot a trail of green blood leading to a nearby cave. There, you will find the only survivor of the crash, injured and resting in the cave near to a skeleton and a ham radio. The small green yellowish-skinned humanoid alien will be hostile, so be prepared. Killing it will allow you to score its alien blaster pistol. You may ask yourself, what is this creature? Why did it crash? And are there more? It's none other than a Zetan and a hostile race of extraterrestrials, and appeared again in the Fallout 4 Creation Club DLC called Zetan Arsenal. There might be some answers for why they are here, if you're able to look between the lines. If you walk through a bridge just southwest of Arc Jet Systems, you will find a dead body beside a dead Brahmin and a dead farmer. On the farmer, there is a note. It reads, "I've always had trouble sleeping. Just the slightest noise, and my eyes pop open wider than a cornfield." Of course, out here that ain't a bad thing. Whether it's the raiders trying to steal your lunch, or the muties trying to cook you for it, if you want to survive in the Commonwealth, you gotta have your mind on a hair trigger. But that night, what woke me wasn't a noise. It was a light. My first thought was poachers, coming after Bessie and the herd, so I grabbed my shotgun and ran out to where they were grazing. But somewhere between the farm and the field, I noticed the light wasn't coming from the ground. It was coming from the sky. Now I've been known to spin a tall tale or two, but what I saw next is the God to honest truth. It was my Bessie, hooves and all, 40 feet in the air. The next morning, I tried to tell a trader what happened. They tried to convince me she was carried off by blood bugs, but I've seen them things make a meal out of a Brahmin before. This was different. It was like she got sucked sucked right up into the sky. It's happened 2 more times since. All I got left now is Emma. She's Bessie's only daughter, and I'll be damned if I let them have her too. So I'm taking her back to the wild, back home to live with her kind. It may not be the safest place to be, but if she's off the farm, at least she'll be safe from them. In fact, Emma's been there once before. When I rope a wild Brahmin, I like to have one of my own beside me. It lets them all know I treat my herd well. Of course, Emma took up a spot near the back where the hubflowers grow. At first I thought she was being shy, but later I found out she just liked the smell. Next time I come visit her, I imagine that's where she'll be. Her last wish is to check on Emma, the dead Brahmin next to her. Following the quest marker, you will be tasked with collecting Emma's keepsake and delivering it back to the wild. Arrive at your destination, you will come across a UFO as it is in the process of tractor beaming a Brahmin. Your next task is to kill the Zetans that spawn nearby the Brahmin. This indicates that they returned after the events of the Fallout 3 DLC, Mothership Zeta, which starts with the lone wanderer coming across a similar alien crash in the DC Capital Wasteland. At the DLC's climax, the lone wanderer destroys a second Zetan mothership and returns to the Mojave. Elliot Turkorian, an American soldier abducted during the battle for Anchorage, chooses to stick around on the mothership to keep an eye on things. The other abductees stay as well. With this in mind, was Elliot Turkorian and the rest of the abductees fighting off the Zetan invasion from orbit? Or has Mothership Zeta been destroyed and now something else is holding the Zetans back? Could the Zetans be preparing their forces for another invasion in the near future? If you spawn in 2 Zetans using the ID of the one from the crashed ship, they will attack each other or any Zetans spawned with a different code. This is due to the NPC being set to frenzy, but could it also indicate that there is some sort of alien civil war taking place in the skies above Earth? Only future games can reveal. These were the 7 levels of mysteries in Fallout 4. If you want to see Fallout 3's biggest mysteries explained in 20 minutes, click the video on the screen.